Good morning, all. My greetings to and thanks to the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Upinder Dhar, and Professor M.P. Gautam, and of course, Dr. Swati, the faculty members of Vaishnav Vidyapeeth, all the delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here today, especially the reason is that this theme is extremely important. And as it is generally said that the criminal justice is considered to be the barometer of the civilization in any society. So in that sense, criminal justice system is also an aspiration of a progressive society. It is not simply a tool to regulate crime. It is a very important tool to ensure a peaceful law and order, thereby contributing to the growth and development in the community. Linking criminal justice system with the development and sustainable development, peace and order is very, very important. I would like to stress that there is a need to move away from the instrumental objectives of criminal justice system to more sustainable objectives of criminal justice system. Because the immediate need is to regulate criminal, but regulating criminal is an instrumental objective. As I've said, it is very important research is going on in many places where they are linking the state of justice with the state of development. If you look at the important contribution of the World Justice Project, and they are ranking the countries on the index of justice, on the index of rule of law. So development cannot be isolatedly seen without bringing criminal justice system into consideration. More recently, a very important, all of us know, a report was tabled on, I think 4 reports have been published on happiness index. Nobody on the earth could imagine at that point of time that happiness is also the function of criminal justice system. I have researched this subject and wrote a very lengthy research paper linking the fact that the performance of criminal justice system has severe implications to the state of happiness in a society. If you look at the index of happiness in developed countries, or in the countries where crime rate is very low. So for instance, in Scandinavian countries, they register very high on the index of happiness, but they are also those countries where the crime rate has been very low and public satisfaction to the criminal justice system is very high. Therefore, it is the time to enlarge the understanding of criminal justice system in terms of contributing to the growth, sustainable development, and happiness and good governance. These are the important dimensions to be achieved by the criminal justice instrumentalities in this country. I have a number of things to share. However, I would just try to draw my experiences working on the Committee of Criminal Law Reform as Member Secretary. We have recently submitted the report to the Ministry of Home Affairs. Why I'm discussing this? Because it is important for us to understand the roadmap of criminal justice in this country and the kind of changes which are supposed to be there, are supposed to be taking place. We need to be, cognizant of them. When this task came to us, we know that the state of criminal justice in our country is very fluid. And you will invariably see that there are anxieties and concerns of the people across the country with respect to the functioning of the police, prosecution, prison, and all other organs of the system. And in fact, I wanted to refer that today's newspaper, most newspaper, including Indian Express, Hindu, they have op-eds focusing on Bilkis Bano matter. And Indian Express carries a very sharp article on Bilkis Bano movement. I'm saying criminal justice system is always in national debate. And they are expressing the concern in the manner in which 11 convicts responsible for Bilkis Bano rape have been given remission by the government of Gujarat. A hue and cry has been created. And people, I'm happy that people at large are now reacting to the affairs of criminal justice in this country. Criminal justice is becoming a matter of public concern. This is a good beginning for a country like India, because otherwise it was considered to be the idea only with the judges, with the prosecutor. But I say justice is too important to be left to the courts and police. It has to be taken to the people. And therefore, Bilkis Bano case has shaken the conscience. Time and again, our conscience is shaken. And therefore, we become activated for criminal justice reforms. So history of criminal reform in this country is the history of public reactions with respect to so many cases. If you remember, Bhauri Devi happened, Mathura rape case happened, then Delhi gang rape happened. And all the three occasions we brought out number of criminal justice reforms, as if we wait for something big to happen to be able to introduce those changes which are required in the criminal justice system. So I was trying to say that we have perhaps forgotten the fact that criminal law is a public law. Criminal justice system is a public duty. So when I was working on this committee, I have no hesitation to reveal that no less than the Union Home Minister wanted us to provide the perspective of criminal law and criminal justice reform. I said criminal justice system must function on certain principles. Our clarity with regard to those principles is very important, because there has to be a consensus on the principle. Because if we are lacking consensus on those eternal principles which inform the performance of criminal justice system, then there would be a chaos. And it is in fact happening, because we are forgetting those principled stances. We are moving to achieve those instrumental objectives which are very, very immediate. So therefore, I said there are as many as 11 principles which we have formulated. They are available on the website of criminal justice, criminallawreform.in. And if you see, I said the primacy of the Constitution is the first principle. Because in this country, there are a lot of debates, a lot of conflict on everything. But perhaps there is a full consensus on the primacy of the Constitution. So as long as criminal justice and criminal laws conform to the ideals of Constitution, there will not be an issue. Second, primacy of the human right. Criminal laws and criminal justice system has been vested with the powers to the police to interfere with those fundamental rights which are primary to the existence of the individual. There is only one law which can interfere: the right to life, right to freedom, and everything else. But primacy of the human right has to be kept in view. And third, which is very important, and in the garb of complexities of criminal justice system, a lot of excesses and abuses are performed and conducted. So I say simplified, unambiguous, and consistent procedure. This is the aspiration. This is aspirational. All technology, so many things we can talk about in terms, because this focus of FDP is on advancement. But advancements have to be informed by the principles. Hope you are knowing the Criminal Procedure Identification Act now 2022, which provided the police powers to take measurements. There was a lot of debate and discussion whether data thus collected by sample of body fluid, sample of all kinds will not be misused. We are therefore bringing in a Data Protection Act, because we should not forget that in Puttaswamy case, the Supreme Court has provided us a fundamental right to privacy. So now criminal laws and criminal justice has to perform in keeping these rights in mind. Then fair and time-bound investigation. This is now all efforts are now being geared to achieve. Whether can we do? You know, very recently a person was acquitted after 27 years. Adam Bhai in Gujarat, who was arrested in connection with Akshardham case, was found not guilty after 11 years. Because in this country, probably the value to human being is lessening and institutions are taking prominence over individuals. We have created a system where we have probably removed the individual from the scene. And like, for instance, I said, let me complete these principles and I'll come back. So fair and time-bound trial. Then I also talk the transparency and accountability. These are very important. Victim justice, justice to crime victim. I'll come back to the point. But I wish to say that before all recent Supreme Court judgments on Puttaswamy, on the marital issues, now the LGBT issues, so many judgments came. There is a subtle distinction that you can easily notice, that criminal law in most countries was created to protect the interest of the state. The state was kept on the driving seat. The state has a monopoly to punish people. But in 21st century, governed and guided by constitutional democracy, we are talking about the supremacy, the primacy of the individual in the criminal justice system. Because if you focus the individual in the criminal justice system, you will talk about the rights and entitlement of the individual. So that is very, very important. Second, we need to choose between two important things. America has done this choice and they have landed in huge crisis and they are now resuming back. So what was the position? We have two choices in criminal justice. One is called due process model. Other is called crime control model. Due process model is idealistic in nature, where we say that the system will function according to the laws of the country. Due process entitlement shall be granted to the parties and everyone. However, the other model, which is crime control model, is a practical side of the issue, which says that by hook or by crook, we have to control the crime. At times you feel that the system is effective because it is controlling the crime, but it ends up violating human rights of lots of people, because people will be picked up, they would be tortured, confession will be extracted, and a lot of things will happen. Your idea, your intention may be right, but your method is objectionable. So we need to make a special choice, because we think a strong criminal justice system always leads to a better law and order situation. Please go to the researches and you will find the result quite contrary. There is a phenomenal book by Tyler. He wrote When People Obey the Law. And he has come on the conclusion that it is not the toughness of the system which functions. It is the credibility of the system which functions. In America, they have toughened the system, but lost the credibility. Therefore, crime could not be controlled. Now they are trying to regain the credibility of the system. So people at large are more likely to obey the law when they have faith in the authority. They have reasons to believe that the system would function impartially. I'm telling you these things because we are talking about the principles. I'm also saying these things that we have been conditioned to see crime from the lenses of the state for a long, long time. Because what constitutes crime is decided by the state. And we are shown a picture that, look, this is the crime. So crime is first created, then shown. I'm saying for too long we have been conditioned to see crime from the lenses of the state. And state construction of crime has got a variety of issues, because the state has its own anxieties. They have to regulate the people. The police came into being to regulate the people, not for the welfare of the people. Now, similar things are happening. There is a hue and cry even at the moment in the country, where people at large are apprehending, they are thinking that the state agencies are misused. I don't know the fact. I'm saying there is apprehension that laws are being misused to regulate the people. However, I am saying it is very important to make this law from being the state law to make a public law, a people's law, people's criminal justice system. People do not have any participation in criminal justice system. That is the whole problem. Because now through media, a lot of people are reacting. As I said, this is the Bilkis Bano movement in criminal justice system. Indian Express said today very beautifully. Bilkis Bano movement in criminal justice system, where people are, being made aware that what are the compulsion of a state to provide or to give remission to 11 convicted who have committed a gruesome murder of Bilkis Bano, along with her rape and the murder of 5-6-year-old girl child. Huge, dissatisfaction. Now, to me, the quality of criminal justice system should be gauged on the basis of the manner in which it responds to the poor, to the disadvantaged section, to the vulnerable section, to the victims of crime, and the extent to which it is able to restore the harm done to the people. So choice is whether punitive and retributive system are to have a restorative and reformative system. I am telling you, I keep myself engaged in such discourses very often, and time and again we try to look at whether criminal justice and criminal law has any mechanism to heal the broken relationship. So crime essentially results into the relationship broken, irrespective of what court does, irrespective of what criminal justice system does. We do not have any mechanism to restore the broken relationship or heal the sufferings of the people. Can criminal justice system have a healing effect? Because lawyers and others have interest in perpetuating the conflict in the society. They do not want the conflict to be subsided and to be restored. They want the conflict to be perpetuated and aggravated. So litigation leads to conflict, and conflict leads to disorder, and vicious cycle continues. And it is therefore time to look for the options like happiness, development, restoration, reformation, forgiveness. In a country like America, they are saying 60-70% people you have lost in jail who are from weaker section and all that. They are just counting their time. These national resources are wasted. Do you have any alternative mechanism to deal with your own citizen? Let them be punished, let them be condemned. Nobody is saying they should. But there are multiple mechanisms to actually address these things, because suppression doesn't always lead to restoration. And therefore, I'm saying, for instance, lately we have started paying attention to the victims of crime, since this program is focused on recent advancement. If you see in Ashish Mishra case, where that Tenny's son, who has reportedly run down a person, the case could not be heard in UP. Case came before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, you cannot be given bail until we hear the victim of crime. Victim of crime has a participatory right. We have never allowed the victim of crime to provide the same status, because we have not created any space for the victims of crime in the criminal justice system. Victim has been marginalized all along in the criminal justice process. And therefore, it is very important to balance the rights of victim vis-a-vis the accused rights. Now, lately, we have also seen a lot of changes in prison, because prison is also a very important system through which we try to react and respond to wrongdoing. But what is happening in prison, we all are knowing. Prison, mostly, I would say not 100%, but system is failing very badly, because we don't know what to do with these criminals. Because in terms of punishment, we have only devised a way that if you have done something wrong, you should be sent to the jail. But what you are doing in jail, after 2 years, 3 years, you are coming out from the prison becoming more hardened criminal. So the objective of prisons have failed. Justice Lokur, in his famous judgment, he has expressed the anxieties. And therefore, I find that this is the time to humanize criminal justice system more and more. It is the time to infuse more and more technology centricity in the criminal justice system. Dr. Upinder was mentioning various techniques which have been introduced. In fact, even the artificial intelligence is coming in a big way in resolving a number of issues which are related to the performance of the criminal justice system. I can imagine that a lot of work of the criminal justice system in future, in next 10 years, in fact, is going to be handled and delivered and executed by some AI-driven, instrumentalities. I don't know what are going to be the implications, but certainly in many countries, this issue is causing a lot of concerns. Like, for instance, if there is a driverless car, and who is going to be liable in case of any particular accident or any mishappening whatsoever. So AI and liability questions are going to be very important. Robotics is going to be very, very important. Crime in metaverse are going to be very, very virtual realities. A person can be here, but the person can also be in New York or in Laos or in so many other places. So how the nations will deal with these complexities in case any criminal activities is, committed during. So at the moment, like European Union has come out with a lot of regulatory. Now India is still groping. So technology is going to be facilitating as well as, impeding factor. So these things and these challenges are very new. And I always say that we are facing the threat of cybersecurity. Our systems, critical information infrastructures are becoming vulnerable. But we are probably unable to address them because our systems were never created to deal with these kinds of changes. So therefore, they need to be replaced with a lot of technologically advanced system. And some of these ideas, and last but not least, the gender issue is creating a lot of issues. And the courts in the recent past have become very conscious of this particular fact, how the gender relationship should, prevail in the functioning of the criminal justice system. And a lot of issues pertaining to these are coming up. And I'm sure the participant in this gathering will pay enough attention. But I would stress that let us not be in a kind of bull gathering sort of a state where we think and we think only. Provided there is time to look at the important researches which are now being carried out in the criminal justice arena, which are talking about a lot of new practices, new alternatives, alternative paradigms. They need to be captured, need to be shared, discussed, and applied to be able to bring those much needed change in the criminal justice system. Because we know that the criminal justice system inherently conservative, and any discussion with respect to change and innovation in this system is resisted, if not opposed. Therefore, a lot of responsibility lies on the criminologists, forensic scientists, thinkers to develop those models, because this is the era of startups and entrepreneurship. And I could see in my university, a lot of students are bringing solutions through legal startups, through entrepreneurship. And these things give a lot of hope to us. So I know this discussion can prolong a lot, but I know the limitations of time. I again, extend my sincere thanks to the Vaishnav Vidyapeeth and its Vice Chancellor, Dr. Vinderdhar, my dear senior friend, Dr. M.P. Gautam Dhab, and Dr. Swati, and all the colleagues who have invited me. Thank you so much for your invitation and this opportunity.